Welcome to the Love, Sex, and Leadership podcast, where you can discover simple tantric teachings to embody your true power, awaken your soul's wisdom, and live an inspired life as a natural, intuitive, and heart-centered leader. Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of Love, Sex, and Leadership. My name is Aaron Kleinerman. Very excited to begin a journey with many of you. Maybe some of you have met me before. Maybe some of you have been to a workshop or retreat, or maybe you're just finding this podcast for the first time. So my intention with this podcast is creating a space for healthy conversations around sexuality, around love, around leadership, and supporting people just as you to begin to feel more empowered inside yourself to be able to essentially master the human experience so that you can awaken more of the wisdom inside of your soul. So in this podcast, I'm going to be having many conversations and dialogues with dear friends and colleagues all over the world, some happening live in the future, some that have already happened, and then I'll be sharing some of live audio teachings from a lot of the workshops and retreats that I run around the globe. And before I started that, I was thinking, well, what do I do for the first episode? Where do I start? How do I begin? So I thought, well, I'll just record a live video, I'll record a live audio and get us beginning. And really the essence of the reason for this is for each one of you to feel like you have a place to go. If you have questions, if you're listening to this, if you've been a long-time listener, you're just finding it, if there's something you want to find out more around sexuality or love, or you're feeling challenges in your relationship or your capacity to lead and direct others, then send us a message. I'd love to invite deeper dialogue and conversation as we move forward in this podcast. And I also want to share with you my why. So a little bit about me. I come from the south of Boston. I'm actually a former ship's captain, merchant mariner, operating vessels around the world. And when I made the decision to pursue that career, I always knew it wasn't going to be for a lifetime. It wasn't going to be something I was going to do forever. But what it did at a young age, in my early 20s, it gave me a lot of freedom to explore the world. So just this last year, I turned 40. And when I turned 40, one of the goals I had in my 20s was that by the time I was 40, I will have been to over 100 countries. I didn't make 100, but I made 90. And by the time I was 30, I'd been to over 50 countries around the world. So I'm really a global explorer. My human design is all around exploration and generation and aliveness into this world. And it's what fuels me. I spend much of the year putting on workshops and retreats. Last year, in 2023, I was teaching over 15 countries. The year before, very much the same. So if you've never met me in person, just come check my events tab on my website, and then you can come find me at a festival, at a workshop somewhere out there in the world. And so let me get to the why. The why of having a conversation around sexuality more than anything is that a lot of people in this world don't really understand how to work with sexuality, how to understand it, how to incorporate into their lives in a grounded, practical way. There's a lot of shame, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of misunderstanding. And for me, kind of being a consciousness geek through the years, I've spent well over hundreds of thousands of dollars on courses and retreats and workshops, and I have a master's in spiritual psychology. And I'm always trying to understand and diving deeper into the mysteries of the universe. So the intention of bringing these conversations for you is so that you can have some of those conversations into your own ears, into your own, if you're driving your car, if you're studying at home, if maybe you've listened to my Audible book and you want to find out more, whatever it may be, I want to have the dialogues and conversations that people aren't willing to have. And I want to find this dissecting place between where love and sexuality meet leadership, because the place of sexuality is where our erotic body comes alive. And if you're listening to this right now, then mom and dad, your mom and dad, whether they're alive or they're dead, at some point, sperm and egg met to create life that created you. So even if as you're listening to this right now, place a hand on this beautiful body temple and just say, thank you. Thank you, God, Goddess. for bringing you into this world, because the reality is you are a living, breathing miracle. The amount of sperm that comes out every time a male body ejaculates is a lot. There's a lot of lives that can be created. So the particular form that you have come into this life is pretty remarkable. And sometimes we take that for granted in our life. We forget about the simplicities, the where and the why, where we've come from. So when you wake up in the morning, one of the greatest things you can do is look yourself in the mirror, place a hand on your body, give yourself a little kiss, mwah, and say, thank you. Thank you for bringing me in this world. Thank you for this love that emanates from within me. And thank you, God, Goddess, for creating and bringing you into divine manifest form. And I teach a lot in this field of Tantra. Maybe some of you know me as a Tantra teacher. And I'm going to be giving some communication in some of these podcasts around what is Tantra and what is it all about, and why is Tantra so important? Why is it so misunderstood in our world? So these communications in these places of where love can weave itself through life is really exciting, because I imagine you're probably listening to something around love and sexuality and leadership because you don't want to die on your deathbed with your dreams still inside of you. You don't want to die in your deathbed feeling like you never really made good love, or you never really understood what love really was or sexuality was. So my intention for you is to, through the interviews, through the conversations, through the dialogues I'm going to be having with friends and colleagues and beautiful, amazing beings around the world, to start to open up some of the seeds of possibility inside of you. Start to shift the perceptions of the lens to which you're breathing through, the lens to which you're seeing through, and the lens to which you're creating life through, so that you can be on your deathbed and you can say, you know what? I gave it my all. I utilized the gifts, the resources, the pieces inside of me, and I'm not leaving anything else behind. I've said, hey, Spirit, this is what I've come here to offer. This is what I've come here to bring into this world. And this is why I'm taking time out of my day to create the conversations, to create the teachings and the information for you to be able to educate and awaken and maybe lean into some of the uncomfortable areas in your life. So before we move forward, I'm going to invite you, wherever you're listening to this, just to take a deep breath into the belly. Release a little sound on the exhale. And if you're in a place where you can close your eyes down, I want to invite you to close your eyes down for a moment. Of course, if you're driving, don't close your eyes down, but just visually tune in to your inner body. And you might, in this moment, if it feels right, just take a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly, and just take a nice deep breath in again. Letting go some sound on your exhale. And again, I want to start this with gratitude. So while you're holding this beautiful body temple that takes you through life, just say thank you. Thank you, body. Thank you for everything you bring into this life. Thank you for your mind. Thank you for your heart, for your emotions, for your sexuality. And if it feels right to you with this level of gratitude and thankfulness, maybe there's a touch on your hand. Maybe there's a touch on your arm, or a gentle caress across your face, or maybe that feels way too awkward for you. And fair enough. What I want to support you to do is to move through some of the uncomfortabilities that may have come up in your life when you've suppressed your sexuality, when you've suppressed your leadership. Because inside of every one of you, you wouldn't be listening to a podcast on leadership if you didn't know intrinsically that there is a leader inside of you. If you didn't know without a shadow of a doubt that there is a leader inside of you that wants to make a difference on this planet. I want to acknowledge that leadership and give it a little bit of water and nutrients so that leadership can grow. because I'm sure you know more than anyone that your leadership matters in this planet. And we need more conscious leaders who are here to make a difference in the lives of people around. Humanity is going through a massive change, astrologically, socially, financially, physically. There's a lot of destruction that's happening. And with destruction comes construction. And one of the principles that I'll be speaking with throughout this entire journey in the podcast that we'll be on for a long time is this place of duality. And duality means that there's polarity. And inside of polarity, this universe is made up of a combination of both nothingness and everythingness. And if we look at some of the tantric scriptures, we're looking at these dialogues between the pure manifest form of nothingness, or you could say Shiva, which is just the masculine form of consciousness. And it's not even actually masculine at the end of the day, communicating with the everythingness, which is, you could say, Shakti or poverty. And these communication is about understanding what's actually going on in this planet, like what's really going on in this world, and how can a deeper understanding of what's going on make a difference in your life? How can you, with all of the inner resources that you have, start to make a difference in your life and the lives of the people around you? And not to compare yourself and try to be something that you're not. There's so much comparative culture in our world that's not actually recognizing the unique genius that's inside of every one of you. So I will be referencing our duality to support you to master the human experience so that you can awaken and live from the wisdom that's inside of your soul. Now you can see I can get quite animated and excited because these concepts light me up. That's why I can teach all across the world for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, because I get lit up when I get to empty myself and become a source, become a channel for spirit to move through me. And that's why I've dedicated time for this podcast, because I've been on probably over 100 podcasts through the years, and I've been having people ask me, when's your podcast coming out? When's your podcast coming out? And so I am finally creating one here, and it's coming out, and it's here to support each one of you to know the empowered leader that's inside of you. So that you're not sitting back on your heels in life and saying, oh, maybe one day that dream inside of me can be manifest. Or maybe one day I can make a difference in someone's life. The people that you're here to impact are different than the people I'm here to impact. And I'm not here to sign you up into some program that's forever gonna be, debiting your credit card for the next 100 years or 10 years or 5 years. I'm here to empower you to wake up into the wisdom that's inside of you. And maybe that is through finance. Maybe that is through the aliveness inside of you. Maybe it's through dance, through theater, through sharing and vibrating what stems from within you, so that you're not dying on your deathbed with your dreams still there. And the way that I've seen the unification, the integration between these places happen is between our love, our sex, and our leadership. And when I say love, I'll give some definitions to what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some mushy-gushy, pie-in-the-sky romantic dream that we're trying to find. I'm talking about the love that's right there inside of you, that nobody can give to you and nobody can take away from you. A great book that's always had a big impact on my life, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And he's talking about while he was in the concentration camps, while he was dying, while everything was being taken away from him, he realized nobody can take away my capacity to choose. So you have your capacity to choose. Can you recognize that love is inside of you? You might find romantic love in another, and I celebrate that. I love romantic love, and that's why we're also going to be talking about sexuality. But the soul love that bursts from within you, nobody can take that away from you, and nobody can give that to you. And when you know that your soul, your being is worthy of love exactly the way you are, and you can remember that and live in that and breathe in that each and every day, then you give permission for the other people around you to do the same, simply by not trying to influence them to be someone they're not, but to inspire them, to be in a state of inspiration for them to wake up into the wisdom inside of their soul. Love, sexuality. Second, sexuality is this alive, erotic energy that literally can create life. I was created through sexuality. You listening were created through sexuality. This sexuality is a potent force. And when we're not making babies and we're not making love, how can we have a healthier relationship with our sexuality? Through self-pleasure, through meeting our edges of our desires. What are those erotic desires inside of you? You're like, ooh, I don't know if I can talk to anyone about that. We're going to be having dialogues around that, bringing in some of the world's best Tantra teachers, BDSM teachers, sacred sexuality teachers, some of the people that are leading the way, not just recently, for sometimes decades and years they've been doing that. And I'm very blessed that some of these individuals are some of dear friends in my life. You know, one of my dear friends in Bali was kind of like the grandmother of Tantra. I'll be doing an interview with her, Margot Anand. And many of these beautiful, amazing humans are here, and they've dedicated their life to inspiring you to remember the love inside of you. Another dear friend who I teach with a lot, my friend Laurie Handlers, is kind of like, she calls herself the leader of the sexual revolution. Amazing being. She's 75, going on 25. I love this woman so much. We'll be doing an upcoming conversation as well. So I'm having these interviews so I can start to unpack what's made all of these individuals who they are on the planet, and talk about sexuality in a way that unpacks some of the shame and the discomfort, and actually begins to light you up in a way that you've never found before. And lastly, leadership. What this world needs more of than anything is conscious, embodied leaders. Now, I say embodied leaders. My book back there, which you see, called The Embodied Man. It's a book that I wrote towards and for the masculine, but it's for all beings. I wrote it for men because I knew if I wrote it for all beings, then men wouldn't read it. If I knew I wrote it for male bodies, then they would have more of a possibility of actually picking up and reading it. So this is why it's called The Embodied Man, but it is a book for all beings. I've had actually 50% of the sales have been not just from male bodies, but from female bodies. So embodied leadership means leadership that's not just cognitively understood, but leadership that comes from an embodied sense of knowing who you are in the world. And your embodied mastery gives the vibrational alignment for others to begin to clear and heal through the trauma and the things in their own body, so that they can be a vibrational alignment of synergy, connection, in truth inside of them. And I say it's not cognitive leadership because we don't need any more mind-based leaders on the world. We need leaders that actually can feel life. They have a pulse of possibility inside of them. There's a pulse that lives and breathes through them. So an embodied leader is one that synergizes love, sexuality, and leadership, and then takes action each and every day by not trying to prove his or her worth to the planet, but rather showcases the exemplification of their love through inspired right action. This is embodied leadership. This is what our world needs more of. And this is in fatherhood, motherhood, in your vocations, in your business, with your family. This is with all levels of being a leader. And even if you don't think you're a leader, I guarantee you, if you look around your social circles, your business circles, the people around you, there are people you are influencing right now. So to make that influence more inspired and more aligned to your innate way of being on this planet, I want to inspire you to have a deeper level of leadership that moves through you. This is one of the intentions for this podcast. So this is why we're here. This is what's happening here. I love this field. There's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more conversations and interviews. I do these when you can watch them live. So you can tune into my Facebook stream. You can tune into my Instagram at The Soul Navigator. You can check me on Facebook at aaronkleinerman.com. I have tons of free offerings on my website where I have teachings and things that you can actually take home and do an hour-long masterclass to be more powerful, to be more embodied, and to be more connected into your divine truth. Check that out on my website. If you want to come join me in one of my live retreats, I'm running men's retreats, I'm running tantra retreats. I'm working with over 5 schools in this field of sexuality, in this field of tantra and embodiment. I'm teaching and speaking from stages all over the world, and I'm coming into your home, into your audio, into your podcast to support you to wake up, because we need humanity to wake up more and more right now. Don't go to sleep anymore. There's too many people where the lights are on, but nobody's home. And that means if the lights are on and nobody's home, that we're actually not in the body. And I'll dive deeper into some teachings around trauma and how we can actually heal through trauma to become more of a individual living and breathing in the body, because you found safety in the body and you're not afraid of being in the body anymore. So that's where we are. If you have a subject, if you are a teacher, a speaker, and you feel like, hey, I'd love to be on that show, I'd love to be interviewed and have a conversation with me, reach out to me. I'm a friendly character. I love meeting and teaching and sharing with people all over the world. And wherever you may do, I just want to remind you that there is an absolute genius that bursts inside of you. And I'm here to support you. And I know by supporting you, you're going to support so many more on this planet. So this is Love, Sex, and Leadership. We're just going to start this journey right here and now. And you're going to hear a lot of amazing interviews as we move ahead. So love you all so much. Have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world, and see you next time.